All right, let's look at a few news stories. So this is very important, although it may be reversed in court. Trump has killed the endangerment finding, which is the basis of all environmental regulation in the United States, declaring that high CO2 is a danger to humans. But of course, Trump has said he doesn't believe in global warming, he doesn't believe in air pollution mattering, doesn't believe it harms people or harms the environment, and so he's promoting the use of coal and such, and killing wind and solar projects that were ready to go. So we're retreating back. This is common in dementia and old age. They want to roll the world back to when they were young. So he wants to roll the world back to like 1970 or something like that, a time when he thought everything was perfect. Western Digital has sold all their hard drives for a year, just like other companies have sold all their memories for a year, all to go into AI data centers, which are increasingly looking like a very bad financial bet, but the companies are charging ahead with it, although the deal by which these companies pretended to be solvent about 6 months ago has fallen apart. This is something the internet companies did in the 90s also. And when they didn't really have any customers and they wanted to make it look like they had customers, they made a deal to just pass money around in a circle, where NVIDIA would promise a bunch of money to OpenAI, and OpenAI would promise it to somebody else, and they'd promise it to somebody else, so they could all claim they'd made a big sale without having actually any money come in or out. And then NVIDIA reneged on their $100 billion obligation to pay, saying, oh, that was just a concept and we didn't agree to it, which is the kind of thing that will shatter the illusion. So we'll see what comes of it all, but in the short time it means computer prices are going to go way up. RAM has doubled apparently in price, and it looks like hard drives are also going to go way up in price as there's a scarcity. So I thought it was well known that Russian news was all fake, but apparently there was a limit which has now been passed. Russia's Channel 1 is now airing completely fake news stories that were spread by a bot network, which is what Russia has been using for quite a while. They have a lot of remote-controlled machines that are used to spread propaganda, which they use to manipulate elections in other countries, including ours, to a pretty significant effect, although it's not clear that they actually succeeded in putting Trump in the White House. They certainly helped, and he's, of course, their best friend. So this is an attack I haven't heard of in a while. They're attacking people who use the hardware crypto wallets by mailing them letters, which tell them the sort of thing you might see in a spam email, that something is wrong with your, you must complete a mandatory authentication check to avoid losing wallet functionality, so they'll send you their keys. This is a bunch of tricks. This is an old trick. So, and like I say, the AI bubble seems to be bursting. Now OpenAI is in big trouble. OpenAI, their financials seem to be terrible. More than, I think, half of all the founders have now left the company for greener pastures. People say it's a dysfunctional functioning company, kind of falling apart. And Microsoft, that was absolutely the biggest partner of OpenAI. In fact, they were going to buy OpenAI when, for a period of like 3 days, they fired their founder. And they said, well, we'll just hire everybody and make you a Microsoft employee, because they were going to be, Microsoft was going to make a ton of money off OneDrive, or what is their Copilot, and Copilot was going to be powered by OpenAI, and now they're going to power it by another one of the ones, like Claude or something, one of the other AI companies. So it looks like everybody is running away from OpenAI on the grounds that it's a sinking ship. And something I've been saying for years is I'm really confused how all these big money people are trying to be the first one to invent AI that works, because history shows that the first people that invent something are not the ones that get rich off it. Apple is the smart player. Apple is not investing in data centers or AI. They're just waiting for these guys to fight it out, and then they'll license it from whoever the winner is. That's how you make money. You don't make money by inventing something new. You make money by making a really good product using something, and that's usually the second or third company that comes on the scene. Same thing with music. The people who actually wrote all the hit songs are not the ones that got famous off it. It's the second or third cover that got good. So I don't know why these people all believe that being the first is going to win. Of course, the first is Google. Google actually invented all large language models. They wrote the seminal paper called Attention is All You Need, which is the basis of all large language models. And for a while, it looked like OpenAI was way ahead of them, but OpenAI seems to have stumbled and fallen, and maybe Google is going to pull ahead. It's going to be Gemini or Anthropic, apparently, that's going to own this space. And I'm not an expert of anything, I've just watched this for a while, I would predict the company that will make the most money off it is Apple, because these other guys have burdened themselves with incredible amounts of debt. Like OpenAI made a promise of about $500 billion to build a data center, and the tech reporters asked him, your whole company is valued at $20 billion. How can you possibly make a $500 billion commitment to buy something? They said, oh, it'll be fine. We'll make a lot of money later with some product which we don't even know about yet. And Microsoft has conclusively shown that you can't even get people to pay $20 a month for AI. So it's very unclear how you're ever going to make billions of dollars back off it. Anyway, Elon Musk wants XAI to be a competitor. Nobody takes them too seriously, I think, except Twitter users, and that's basically a small part of Nazis on the far right that love that thing. But anyway, he's also breaking the laws. In order to power it, there's not enough power in the power grid for it, so he's running illegally a bunch of gas turbine generators that are mounted on trucks and claiming that he can violate the pollution laws because the fact that they're on trucks means the law doesn't apply. And he's lying and says they aren't running, so people are flying drones at night with thermal cameras to show that they're all running. So we'll see what comes of that. Elon Musk's entire career is very much like Donald Trump, of just blatantly breaking the law and generally getting away with it. So he's continuing in the same vein. And so it's interesting. They're figuring out how Saturn's rings come about, and they figure it was from two moons that collided, and the fragments of those moons are still around. These small misshapen, one of them is a small misshapen moon with very few craters comparatively, because it's been collided with recently and then reformed out of sort of the dust or molten fragments from that. Anyway, it's interesting. Saturn has, of course, those rings, but the funny thing about those rings is they're not going to last very long on astronomical timescales, so they must have been created relatively recently. And so PG&E has had a lot of blackouts. You may not have noticed down here in San Francisco they had several big blackouts, and they figured out that it was partly due to their AI. I didn't know this, and I really should, actually, but they had a machine learning model to predict how long blackouts would last inside PG&E, but they trained it on small blackouts. When a big blackout hit, the model was spectacularly wrong, and it led their incident responders to do the wrong thing, which prolonged the blackout. So this is, of course, one of the main things to worry about AI, is that it can be wrong for many reasons, but of course the simplest reason is if you don't have good data to train it, then you don't train it on appropriate, then it doesn't have an appropriate response to real data. That's an issue, and I bring it up a lot in my AI class. Often the data that's available is not exactly equal to the data you're going to use, and that's a problem. Same thing happens to polling to predict presidential candidates. You can only get an answer from people who do something like answer their landline telephone, but the voters are not that group. So you have to somehow try to compensate for how many voters have landline telephones and will actually answer a call, and what about all the other people who won't do that? How do you figure out what they would have voted? Anyway, all right, so that's enough of the news.